Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Hello, America. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number this open line Friday, 877-973-7425. Delighted to have you with me. Let's talk about Bernie Sanders. He's upset as people are calling him out on this. Bernie Sanders is decided Democrats, and notice he's not actually a Democrat, he's an independent, but he affiliates with the Democrats. He's on the left. He wants to try to solve the problems of the white working class. And he's decided what they need is a 4-day work week. He held hearings Thursday on a bill he introduced to reduce the standard work week to 4 days without loss of pay. The bill, titled the 32-Hour Work Week Act, would reduce the standard work week from 40 to 32 hours over the span of 4 years, including lowering the maximum hours required for overtime compensation for non-exempt employees. It would also require overtime pay at time and a half for work days that last more than 8 hours, and overtime pay that would pay workers double their regular pay if their workday is longer than 12 hours. Here's just the reality. You know, and I know, that most people actually can't do the job they are paid to do in less than 5 days. And how does this work for plumbers? This is supposedly to help the working class. But what about the plumbers? What about the plumbers? Plumbers, a lot of times, particularly if you're a company, you work on the weekends. If somebody has an emergency on the weekend, you got to go help them. Can you imagine the backlog of labor to deal with all the people you got to deal with, and now deal with them in 4 days instead of 5 days? You're not going to charge your local household way more money because some plumber's going to come along and undercut you. And the market's going to sort it out. So you're not actually going to work 32 hours. You're going to work a 40-hour week. It's the white collar guy who's going to not have to work it. It's the union guy who works at the factory who's not going to have to work it. But at the same time, the costs are going to go up because they're not going to be more productive. This is a willfully naive situation where Bernie Sanders doesn't actually understand the way the world works. Bernie Sanders has never understood the way the world works. Remember, Bernie Sanders honeymooned in the Soviet Union, and when asked about the lines to buy food, Bernie Sanders' response was, the lines are proof that people aren't going hungry. That was Bernie Sanders' response. Now, he has introduced the legislation, no coincidence, with LaFonza Butler, the pro-abortion Maryland senator who actually represents California. She lives in Maryland, but Gavin Newsom, to help his presidential bid, decided to appoint her to the Senate to represent California because he wanted her bid. And he's got a bunch of left-wing people testifying that a 4-day work week will work just well. And he points to other countries that have reduced their work week, like France, Norway, and Denmark. Okay, friends, do you want to be Americans or French? Which do you want? Because I assure you, we're more productive and a wealthier nation. The French, the Danes, I love the Danes, but come on, seriously? The Danes, the Norwegians, and the French are not as productive as we are, nor are they as wealthy as we are as a nation, in one part because of the work ethic of the American people in the Republic. It's absurd. But why let facts stand in the way of good argument? Now, the corollary to this is Ben Shapiro. And full disclosure, not only do I sometimes guest host for Ben on his national show, he's a friend. I can't tell you the number of times. I don't know Ben well, and maybe I shouldn't say he's a friend. He's more like a good acquaintance. We've been to a couple dinners together. I've known Ben since he was like a young kid involved in politics. I remember, the first time we met was probably 2008 or so. His first book had come out sometime around then. And David Horowitz had invited him down to this gathering he did at the Breakers in Florida, and I met Ben there. Super, super guy. I am so proud of his success. I try not to talk as fast as him. Ben is a great guy. My kids now regularly say, Dad, will you email Mr. Shapiro and ask him X, Y, or Z? The only regret I have with Ben Shapiro is, so tonight I'm taking my son to see Jordan Peterson. He got introduced to Jordan through Ben's podcast, and my son loves Jordan Peterson now. He's speaking in Atlanta tonight, so I'm taking my kid to see Jordan Peterson. If some of you are there, yes, that's me with Gunner. And he wanted to see Jordan Peterson. It's all Ben's fault. But Ben has caused waves by saying that there's no reason anyone should retire when they're 65 years old. Now, you should know there is a trait in Judaism, from what I understand, that discourages retirement. And I can't fathom retirement, in all honesty, given what I do for a living. I can't imagine not wanting to get up and be here. Y'all know when I go on vacation, the only thing I think about on vacation is, when do I get back to y'all? It's unfair to my family, I realize, but I love my job. There are grueling days, and there are some days where I just don't feel like I got it in me. Had a rough night the night before, didn't get good sleep. Why am I here? There is no news to talk about. I got to come up with something. Maybe today is one of those days. But I get it. At the same time, I also am mindful that there are people who work really grueling jobs, and they get to 65 and they're ready to just collect a Social Security check. I get that too. I'm kind of if you've got a great job, there's no reason to push you to retirement. And there are, let's be honest, government incentives to get you to retire. I'm also mindful, and I even think about it in this industry that I'm in, of the number of people who have refused to give up the microphone past their prime. They're denying other people who might be better access to jobs. I see this in industries along the way. And it's something I hear from younger people that I know of. They get real frustrated with the 60, 70-year-old who's still in a job, who's clearly past their prime, who should be retired, so the young bucks can get a head start. Hey, look at the presidential race. Look at the presidential race. We got two 80-year-olds running for president. All the younger, better qualified, smarter, more able people are like, why the heck are we going through two 80-year-olds again? Shouldn't they be taking Social Security? The reality, though, is that some of them, they'll just retire and die. And people don't want to die. It should be their choice. It should be their choice if they want to figure out a way to make their life work for a 4-day work week. It should not be the federal government imposing it, because it does have economically collateral falls. Let me just give you a great example of this. It's a real-world example of the dangers of Bernie Sanders' 32-hour work week policy. Spreading your work over 4 days. The number of restaurants in urban areas in this country that have gone out of business because after COVID, workers started working remotely and didn't come back. Their budgets and their pricing are priced for regular visits 5 days a week. You now reduce it to 4 days a week. Their prices are going to go up in such a way that a lot of people are going to be able to afford them. Their prices have had to go up because now they have a regular clientele 4 days a week, not 5 days a week. So they got to price up their produce. They got to price up their stuff. Meanwhile, your pay is not going up. You're working less under Bernie Sanders' plan, but you're getting the same amount of pay, not an increase in pay. Well, their prices have gone up. So now you used to go get the hamburger for $9, and now it's $15 to cover the cost of people not coming in on Friday. And you're not going to get the $15 hamburger now. You're not even going to go eat at that restaurant. So now you've put a lot of people out of work by you all working 4 days a week. The local restaurant that cater to a 5-day week, they've all gone unemployed. The restaurant had to shut down. They can't meet costs. Our nation is designed around a 5-day work week economically and just as a matter of fact. And good luck, by the way. Your doctor's office now is closed on Friday. A lot of doctor's offices are closed on Friday already. So are the doctor's offices now going to be closed on Thursday too? Good luck getting a doctor's appointment. So many people already struggle with doctor's appointments, or they close at noon on Friday. We struggle with this with my family sometimes, getting the kids into doctor's appointments because they can only miss so much school. You know, in the post-COVID era, they haven't ever adjusted the attendance policies at school. So you got kids with straight A's, and oh my gosh, they've missed more than 10 days in a semester. They got to repeat the semester. Thanks, public school standards, even though we're in a private school. Thankfully, my kids haven't had this problem, but they've come close. There are practical realities to a 5-day work week, and then there's something else too. Not to swing into deep theology here with you. Not to swing into it, but if you go back and you look at Genesis 1 and 2, when God created the Garden of Eden, you know what he did? He put Adam and Eve to work. Tending the garden. Work. Now, it wasn't super hard work, but it was rewarding work. It was enjoyable work. They didn't have to worry about weeds at the time and thorns and briars and wild animals coming to kill them and things like that, but they had to work. They had to tend to the garden. They had to be stewards. You're going to have work in heaven. You think that when you get out of this life, you're just going to float on a cloud for all of eternity and eat chocolates and listen to angels playing harps? No, you're going to work. There's going to be jobs. In the new heavens and the new earth, there are going to be jobs, and you're going to have a job. It's going to be a rewarding job. You're going to love your job, but it's going to be a job. You're going to work. And I suspect there's going to be a 6-day work week, not a 5-day work week, because you're going to have one great restful Sabbath day, enjoying communing with the Lord, but you're going to work in the garden, in the new heavens and the new earth. There's something soul-fulfilling about work. Think of all the people you know who don't have to work. Think of all the people, and sometimes you're a little envious. They're super wealthy or what have you, and they've never had to really work hard in their lives, and their lives, they tend to be miserable people. They tend to have all sorts of problems. Their kids tend to have all sorts of problems because the kids have never seen their parents work, not have a work ethic. They don't have a work ethic, and it ends badly. There's something soul-nourishing about work. And Bernie Sanders is essentially treating work as bad. And it's not a coincidence that France, Norway, and Denmark, 3 of the most secular countries on the planet, have reduced their work week, and they think it's all hunky-dory, except the number of people in those countries who still go work 5 days a week. It's silly to do this, but more so because Bernie Sanders has claimed that this is for the working class. The working class are still going to have to work 5 days a week. It'll be the rich. Bernie Sanders' policies always ultimately end up benefiting the rich because that's who Bernie Sanders caters to. Because when Bernie Sanders hangs out with people, he's hanging out with wealthy white communists. He's not actually hanging out with the working class, and he thinks he has the working class's back when he really doesn't. Bernie Sanders' policies constantly screw the middle class. You don't believe me? Think about Obamacare. How many of you hate your health care situation now in a way you didn't like it 10 years ago, but it was certainly more readily available, more accessible, and cheaper? It's not now because it's Obamacare, which the Democrats told us would help the working class, and it actually hurt the working class, particularly the self-employed working class. Remember, these are the same people who decided they needed to jack up the minimum wage massively in California, and now the unemployment rate in California is going up. The communists don't actually understand the working class. They never have understood the working class. They never will understand the working class. The working class, they want to work. They want to make money. They want the opportunity to become wealthy. And it's Bernie Sanders' policies that keep them from ever doing that. They don't want to lay down on Bernie Sanders' social safety net. They want to get off the net and work, but Bernie Sanders punishes the working class when they try.
This episode is made possible by PwC. When unprecedented times are all the time, it's time to start walking the talk. Leaders like you turn to PwC to see and stay ahead. Upskill your workforce, use intelligent automation, and transform big ideas into breakthrough outcomes. Explore the human-led, tech-powered solutions that help you thrive. It's all part of The New Equation. Learn more at thenewequation.com.
Hello and welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. It is an open line Friday, and at the bottom of this hour, I'm going to start taking calls. The phone lines are open, 877-973-7425. I don't know if y'all know this or not, and many of you probably don't. But last week, Joe Biden gave his State of the Union address. Nobody's talking about it. We're a week removed, and nobody's talking about it. We were days removed, and people had stopped talking about Joe Biden's State of the Union. And now we have a lot of polling out post State of the Union. And it turns out Joe Biden did not even get a dead cat bounce. That's where you sometimes see a bounce that then flops back down. I mean, he didn't see it. In fact, his popularity has gone down. There's been no dead cat bounce. It's just gone straight down, his popularity. It may have encouraged Democrats that he has what it takes to be on the campaign trail against Donald Trump. And that was my point. It's what I said, and I've been proven right. The whole point of Joe Biden's State of the Union address was not to help himself with the American people, but to lock in support from Democrats to show he can go the distance against Trump. And he managed to do that. He managed to consolidate some Democrats, but in the process, he lost a lot of other people. I mean, in multiple national polls now, credible polls, Donald Trump is now getting 20 to 25% of the black vote. He got, I think, 12 to 15% in 2020. If Donald Trump gets 25% of the black vote or 30% of the black vote, he wins. He's getting roughly 30% of the Hispanic vote right now. He may get higher than that. It continues to go up. If Joe Biden keeps going the way he's going to lose. If something doesn't change, he's going to lose. He cannot beat Donald Trump in the way he's going right now. And I don't think Democrats, in their deranged hatred of Donald Trump, can process that most people don't hate him the way they hate him. They're in a little bubble. Everyone they know despises Donald Trump. And so they're convinced everyone does. But that's not true. Joe Biden's polling has declined since his State of the Union address. Apparently, Americans don't like it when Granddad stays up past his bedtime and yells at Americans, which is what his State of the Union address amounted to. Democrats loved it, but it alienated more Americans. Nobody's talking about the speech. The only thing people are noting is he got not a dead cat bounce, he declined in the polls after his speech was over, which suggests all the media celebrations and hoo-ha analysis of it was biased and wrong, as I also told you would be the case. Now, considering I was so right on all that, y'all should at least give me some credit for Old Glory Bank and how right I am on this. It's my bank, and I'm delighted to have them as an advertiser. I like them because there has been a banking trend in this country where progressives have encouraged more and more banking institutions to restrict your purchases through your bank. So, for example, the real-world example is multiple banks in this country have changed their terms of service where you can't buy a gun on your bank debit card or processed wired funds from your bank account to a gun shop because this is how progressives are trying to restrict gun purchases in the country. You don't have to worry about that with Old Glory Bank. They have a banking bill of rights. They're not going to cancel your account because of who you are, who you worship, where you shop, how you shop. They're not going to give your data away to the federal government without warrants. They're just not going to participate the way some banks do. They're a conservative institution for conservatives. They're great. I got an account online in less than 8 minutes, and I don't have fees. My checking and savings account don't get whittled away every month with banking fees. Yours won't either. OldGloryBank.com. OldGloryBank.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. OldGloryBank.com. All right, welcome back. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. The phone number, 877-973-7425. It's an open line Friday. Let's go to the phones. Gary, you're going to be up next. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Eric. My family and I quite often think, well, why don't we call him Pastor Eric? He's so on course with theology and politics. We'll say at the end of the day, well, let's see what Eric has to say about that, whatever the controversy.
Well, I apologize to your family.
I've been contemplating the dilemma of our incredible illegal newcomers to America. And I've been reading some history, and it's obvious that America is a great place to be and why anyone wouldn't want to be here, but through the legal process. And Bernie's 3 or 4 day work week would possibly have to use 3 or 4 work days from somebody else to finish the project. So we would employ all those people. But nevertheless, my point is, in the census, which will happen in the year 30, I understand the possibility of technically and physically making it happen, but couldn't Congress, if it gets their head on straight and becomes normal and practical, make it a law that the census counts citizens, not residents? And
yes.
With that in mind, the citizenship, I think this craziness of the open border would stop almost immediately.
I think so too. Here is what it actually says in the Constitution. I'm pulling up the language to get it right. Article 1, Section 2 says, actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years after the first meeting of Congress and within every subsequent term of 10 years in such a manner as shall be directed by law. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, you have to count the people in the United States. You've got to count them for purposes of the Constitution. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the states of the Union among their respective numbers, which shall be determined by the whole number of free persons. And then 3/5 of all other persons, of course, that's been changed. The actual enumeration shall be made. The number of representatives shall not exceed 1 for every 30,000, but each state shall have at least 1 representative. Now, it is a constitutional issue of, can the census count citizens and not generally what is phrased free people? Now, why? Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2 says this: no person shall be a representative who shall not have obtained the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States. And then Article 2, Clause 3 says representatives shall be apportioned among the several states which may be included within the Union according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free people. And the actual enumeration shall be made within 3 years. Now, that is a relevant language shift. You see that? So Article 1 says you got to be a citizen in order to represent, to be a part of the Congress and president. But then it talks about the number of people apportioned for the census. It's a change in language within a section of the Constitution. So there are some constitutional scholars who do argue that the census is required to count everybody, not just citizens. I suspect, however, that you could make that case that it's different. Now, here's how it changed in the 14th Amendment, Section 2. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state, excluding Indians not taxed. But when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for president or vice president, blah, 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 is denied to any male inhabitant being 21 of age and citizens of the United States or abridged, the base of representatives shall be reduced. With the number of such male citizens shall bear the whole number of male citizens 21 years of age in such state. Now, all that is a fancy way of saying is yet again we see another pattern in the Constitution in the 14th Amendment that differentiates between citizens and whole number of persons in states. So constitutionally, there is a very good argument that the census has to count everybody and that representatives are apportioned based on legal and illegal people. Now, that being said, That being said, I think there is a constitutional fix that works here, because the Constitution also presumes a pattern of immigration into the country. And illegal immigration is not one of those patterns. So no one can dispute, based on the plain reading of the Constitution, that the census is to take into account citizens and non-citizens. The question is it required to count non-citizens who are not supposed to be here? And I think you have a very credible argument to make that while permanent resident aliens have to be counted for purposes of the census, and resident aliens who are lawfully in the country, I think you can say the Constitution doesn't contemplate, nor did the founders contemplate, counting illegal aliens who crossed into the country. I think there's a very plausible case. You cannot exclude from the census, you cannot exclude non-American citizens who are lawfully allowed to be in the country. Under the plain text reading of the Constitution, you can't do that. But illegal aliens, I think you have the ability to say no. All right, back to the phones, 877-973-7425. Scott, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. What's going on?
Well, I work in natural resources. I won't tell the agency I work with, but one of the dirty little secrets that we are constantly hearing about and dealing with, and this stems from a conversation you were talking about energy a day or two ago, the new things on the horizon with nuclear energy, and I was thinking about how the left is so adamantly hung up on solar energy and wind, but they are at the point now where they are causing deforestation on a massive scale.
Yes.
In our home state of Georgia to put in solar panels. They are cutting thousands of acres of forests all over the state of Georgia and all throughout the Southeast, I know, in the name of green energy. And the people pushing it in the suburbs and the urban areas don't see it because it's not in their backyard.
I'm so glad you said that.
They know what they're supporting.
So, Scott, you raised that, and not far from me, you leave Macon, Georgia, where I am. You head down I-16, and you get off the Golden Isles Parkway. You head down towards Eastman, Georgia. Georgia Power has put in the largest solar farm in the Southeast, and it is a massive, massive thing. And most of it was farmland, and the farmers sold. Now, one, you've just taken all those cattle and crops out of the food supply to put in solar panels. But two, they also clear cut. There was forest there too. They clear cut the forest. So now you've taken those trees that can breathe in carbon dioxide and release oxygen out, all for solar panels as well. And the left never wants to talk about the trade-off.
And there's trade-offs in other ways too, with your water quality, your air quality, your wildlife habitat. People making money off of those trees that could have been cut, replanted, or regrown and grown again. There are jobs that they're stealing and putting in something. And the really bad part to me is it's government subsidies that make it possible. This doesn't even exist. It's not financially viable without the government subsidies that the federal government and the left is putting to make this happen. This started back in the Obama era, didn't quite make it, and they figured out their mistake with their new Green Deal stuff. They just made up more money to subsidize it. And like I said, a lot of people on the left that are supposedly environmentalists don't even realize the folly of what they've supported.
Yep. Now, by the way, so Scott, while you're talking, I've got my Apple Maps program up to see if they've updated the satellite, and they have. And if anybody wants to see this for themselves, if you go to Macon, Georgia on the map, put it on satellite mode, and then go down I-16, and you'll see south of I-16 an area called Bullard. And just south of there is this solar farm. It is massive. And you can see all of the exposed dirt underneath the solar panels. You can see where they clear cut all the pine trees. A lot of this was open farmland, but a lot of it wasn't. And it is just this massive, massive area where they've had to clear cut. You can now see the on the satellite map, you can see the exposed soil underneath, which has the potential for runoff problems. Now, listen, Georgia Power has a mandate. They got to do it. I'm not blaming Georgia Power because they were forced to do it. And they're taking an all of the above approach. But the left that wants us to do this has taken all of this farmland and these tree stands that were used to produce paper and other things. They've taken them out of agriculture, out of the food supply, out of the supply of trees that can do carbon capture to put in solar panels. When we've got this vast part of North America called desert. And you would think that desert would be the best place. And there are also Great Plains. We have this thing called the Great Plains. It's a thing you study in 4th grade. Perfectly the flat area, not a lot of trees. You could put solar panels there. Instead, what they did in the Southeast is they clear cut and took over farm and tree stands and planted a pile of solar panels. And by the way, you get a good hailstorm that comes through there. Suddenly they've taken out your solar panels. That is one of the funniest stories I've seen. I don't mean to laugh about this, but in Nebraska, the power company, the big power company in Nebraska, their name escapes me now, they built a massive brag-worthy solar farm. And y'all know about storm. I mean, we were talking about the storms yesterday. The gorilla hail, they're calling it, the massive 2-inch and larger hailstones and the like, came through there and destroyed the solar farm. Absolutely wiped it out. So now, can you imagine, yesterday on the show, I was covering the storms, massive storms going from Tulsa up towards Kansas City, Missouri. I could see the hail in the radar. Can you imagine the damage done to the solar farms when the hailstones falling from the sky at speed drop into those solar panels? It's predictable. It is very predictable. You know where they don't have massive hailstorms usually? The desert, where you could put in all these solar panels and be fine. But the left doesn't want to do it where they should do it. They want to do it where they shouldn't do it because part of this is Malthusian as well. They want to generate the situation to cause constraints in food supply to disincentivize population. The left, at the end of the day, is all about disincentivizing population because they think that having more people on the planet is bad. And that's a shame. You know what's bad? Stinky air. That's why I travel with my Eden Pure Thunderstorm. In fact, my kid and I were going to a very nice hotel tonight to stay at a nice hotel after Jordan Peterson, but it's my travel bag, and I keep my Eden Pure Thunderstorm in there. It wipes out bad odors, smoke odors, chimney odors, litter box odors, frying odors, cooking odors, fishy odors, you name it, stinky, wet dog odors. It wipes them out. Now, it's an air purifier, so this time of year in the South, where my black car, I can see the pollen on it. I got to take it through the car wash, and all it's done is sit in the pollen. Great for that, too, because it traps the pollen, the dust, the mold floating in the air, and it has electrostatic plates, so you don't have to get a filter prescription. You just wipe them out. But then it eliminates odors, and it's small. You can hold it in your hand. I keep it in my travel bag. You can hold this thing in your hand. You can plug it in with a USB cord. You can plug it in directly to the wall. So in a car, I've used it to wipe out. I might have blown cigar smoke in my car one time on the golf course, and my wife got mad at me. Not saying I did, but yeah, I did. And, my wife was furious. It's my car. If I wanted to smell like... Anyway, used the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, plugged it up with a USB cord in the car, and it wiped out the odors. You can do it, too. You can get 3 of them for less than $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com is the website. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. You'll get 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms for less than $200 for upstairs, downstairs, your basement, your travel bag, your RV, wherever you need them. 3 of them for less than $200. You're saving $200, by the way. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. They really do work. All right, y'all can have a laugh at my expense. So I'm sitting here in this last segment, and I'm talking about checking the radar yesterday and the hailstones and the solar panels and the weather radar from Tulsa, Oklahoma yesterday. The moment we get into break, the blinds are closed because I was on TV yesterday, and there was something that was reflecting on my face from outside, so I had to close the blinds in my office. I haven't seen outside in several hours. Y'all, this clap of thunder happens. The moment we go to break, I hadn't even checked the radar outside. It scared the snot out of me. It was so maybe instead of checking the weather in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I should be checking the weather in like my own office. It's pouring down rain outside, thundering and lightning. Y'all can't hear the microphone, but it just scared the mess out of me. All right, look, I'll take your phone calls. It is Open Line Friday, but poor old Kirk Cousins, he comes to Atlanta, free agent, signs with the Falcons. Please, when I think about sports teams around here, Brooks, what's your name? Brooks. Let me just Arthur Blank. Sorry, it's one of those days. It's a Friday. When I think about Atlanta sports teams, I think about the University of Georgia, think about even Georgia Tech's basketball team, the Atlanta Braves, and the Atlanta United, the soccer team. I don't even think about the football team. The Falcons just are kind of pathetic. And I know I've got some listeners who are Falcons team members, and I don't mean to offend you guys, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Come on. But they've shaken up the team again, and Kirk Cousins has come down. He was free agent. He signed, and now they're under an investigation. The Falcons are for hiring Cousins because there was a window of time that began Wednesday at 4 p.m. for the team to talk to the Falcons, and there is suggestion that contact was made sometime between Monday and Wednesday. So now they're under an investigation. So clouds hover over the Falcons as they're being investigated by the NFL for bringing in Kirk Cousins. But I actually, for the first time in a while, I'm excited. I always felt bad for Matt Ryan. I just felt like the team's been mismanaged, and I just don't know that Arthur Blank cares that much about the Falcons as he does Atlanta United. We've got the Braves, a World Series winning team. We have the Falcons and their memorable game against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and they hadn't been back since. It's time to actually get a good Falcons team. Maybe Kirk Cousins can help them pull it off. Very nice guy, I hear as well. I don't know him, never met him, but I hear he is just a phenomenal person. So good to have a good guy in a role like that, and maybe I can start paying attention to Falcons games because I've been rather dismissive of them the last few years. All right, Open Line Friday, 877-973-7425. If you text the word DATA, D-A-T-A, text it to 33777. You can subscribe to the show notes. You can also pre-order my book, You Shall Be As Gods. It's 39% off at Amazon right now on sale. Before it comes out, I'm negotiating doing the audiobook right now. I don't know that they'll use my voice, but I'm hoping they will. I'm asking them to let me read my own book. We'll see. But there will be an audiobook version. Just not sure if it'll be in my voice.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.